Hey guys, it's Mike from Development, and we're going to finish up in our series here with this third and last video. What we're going to need to do is just set up a few things in our main activity class. So if we go over here and just double click main activity, you'll see this is the basic just automatic generated file here for us. The first thing we'll do is let's go ahead and declare a few variables and things here. So we need a private game board game. We made the game board class right here. I made that in our first video of this series. Private int start location. We need an array of buttons, so do button, game buttons. Okay, we'll have to import the button there. Alright, next thing we'll need is the little text view we have to show the info to the player. So do text view, call it info display, it'll be fine. Import a text view. Okay. We'll need a couple booleans here, so we'll need one to tell us if the game is over. So we'll need another one to see if the red player is going to go first, which we'll set to true since they'll go first on the first round. We need to know if it's the red player's turn or not. Set that to true to start, and we will also need the boolean to tell if there's already a piece selected. Set that to false. Okay, so that'll do it for declarations here. So let's go ahead and get into our onCreate here. First thing I want to do is, since we're not really making the layout to where you can rotate the device around to landscape and all that, let's go ahead and do super dot set request orientation activity info dot screen orientation portrait. Alright, so now we have that. We'll have to set up our array of buttons. So alright, now we're going to do that is just game buttons equals new button. Remember, we set the game.get board size inside of the gameboard.java file. That's just going to pass in a 9. So now we have made, initialize the array with the size of 9. Okay, so let's go ahead and set up all the buttons in the array. So index starts at 0. It's going to be a button. Find view by ID. r.id. And I just let mine be buttons 1 through 9. So whatever you named yours, you'll have to put here if you named it something different. And then I'm just going to copy this. Okay, I think that's the right amount. So first thing we'll do is we'll change these indexes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And we'll change these to whatever names correspond with the button, which mine are 1 through 9. Okay, now we have that, we need to set up our text view. So info display equals text view. Find view by ID. r.id. I don't remember what we called it. Info display. Okay. Alright, so now we got that. We're going to have to make a new game board object. So game equals new game board. Okay. And now we're going to need a few things. We need to create a few things here before we continue. We'll go ahead and make all of our methods. First thing, let's go ahead and get our menu set up. So now you'll see here on create options menu. So basically we're just going to do the same thing as we did in the TicTacToe series. So it's going to be override public boolean on options item selected. Okay. You may have to import that. There we go. And it should probably say we got to do a return value or something. Yeah, return state, which we'll get to in just a second. So now, as you remember, we have in our menu XML, we set up two IDs, one for new game, one for exit game. Okay, so we're just going to use a switch statement here and say item dot get item ID. So if the item ID of the item that they clicked on is new game, we want to start a new game, which we will make that here in a minute. Breakout, and if it is exit game, we're going to call main activity of this dot finish. So we'll exit out of our app, and we'll go ahead and let's add this up here too. We need to start a new game. Okay, so let's comment this out for now, and we will start up our emulator. And then we'll make sure that this is working before we move on, which right now it won't because we have to actually return true here. Should get rid of that red line. Okay. So just wait for this to load. And this video may end up being two videos since we've got a lot to cover in this one. Okay, so go ahead and pull this down to the trash so we don't get confused there. Alright, and this is just the one with the black background, this one right here. Oops. Save the changes. Do the emulator. And we'll load it up. Make sure our menu displays. Okay, so now we have our standard layout that we had set up. Hit our menu. New game does nothing yet, which is okay. Exit game should take us out of the app. That's good. So now, if you remember, we put a transparent background behind this one just so we can kind of see the difference. So that's what that looks like. That's what the black circle behind it and transparent. So now we got that and that's working. Let's go ahead and uncomment this and save it. And now we're going to go ahead and write the start new game method. Okay, so we're going to do private void start new game. Alright, so first thing we're going to do is call the our game and do clearboard. And that's actually inside the gameboard.java file is what we're calling here. Okay, so we need a for loop now. I equals 0, I is less than buttons.length, I plus plus. Alright, so as we loop through the buttons, we need to remember that just a few things here. So 0 through 2, so 0, 1, and 2 will need to be red. 6, 7, 8 will need to be blue, and 3, 4, and 5 are going to start off as blank. So now with that, we know that that's what has to happen. Let's go ahead and set that up. So as we loop through, if the index is equal to 0, or the index is equal to 1, or the index is equal to 2, which means that it is the top row, they need to be red. So game buttons dot set background drawable, get resources, get drawable, r dot drawable dot red. Okay, and another thing we need to do is set a tag on it. So game buttons I dot set tag, set that to red. Okay, so that takes care of the first row. So else if I is equal to, and go back to our notepad here. So if I is 6, 7, and 8, we need to set those to blue. So just copy and paste this right here. Paste it in. And it was 6, 7, 8. 7, 8. Needs to be blue. Blue. Okay. And then else. If if it's not red or blue, it needs to be blank. So just go ahead and copy this. Paste that in. So it'll need to be blank. Make that blank. Okay. So now we got that. Now these are certain things that depend on the index that will be different for each button. But there are a few things that will be the same for every button, and with those we need to do game buttons. Set text. Notice that we're outside all the if statements, so every button as we loop through is going to get whatever we set here. Make sure there's no text on the button, and then we need to set an on-click listener. So game buttons dot set on click listener, and it's going to be a new button click listener. And we're going to pass it a parameter of whatever the index is. And you'll see why in just a few minutes. Okay. So now we can get outside the for loop here. And we need to do a few more things before we move on and set up our other methods and a button click listener and things like that. We need to see if it's red's turn. So if red goes first, we need to make sure that red turn equals, if red first. So if it's the red player goes first, red turn needs to equal true. Red first needs to equal false. Just because next time the game starts, we don't want the red to go first again, we want blue to go first. Then we need to update our info display to red's turn. Okay. Alright, so let's copy this here and do else. Since we know that if it's not red's turn, it's blue's turn. Just paste it over, change that to false, change this to true, and then change that right there from red to blue. So now if it's blue's turn, we'll make sure that blue gets to go, since we'll set red turn to false. Red first will be set to true, so the next time the game starts, red will go first, and we'll update the display to show that it's blue's turn. Okay, and then we can do location equals -1. We're just going to set this out of the array. Since our array is 0 to 8, we'll just go ahead and set it to -1 now, just to make sure that everything's going to be, it doesn't have a value stored in there from the previous game. So game over, false. Alright, so now what we'll do is let's go ahead and set up a couple more methods that we're going to have to use. So the first one is, we'll get back to this one as soon as we set these other ones up. So the first one is going to be set move. So do private void set move, and pass in a string, call it color, an int, and we'll call it start location, and another int called end location. Okay. Now what we'll need to do here is we'll need to set a drawable. You may have to import a drawable, so I'm just going to call mine C drawable and initialize it to be null. I'm going to import that, and then we will go ahead and do if color equals red, C drawable equals get resources drawable r.drawable.red. Okay, so we're saying if the string that's passed in, which is color, is red, then we know we need to set this drawable to our the drawable resource with this ID, which is .red, which is the red.png here. So let's go ahead and copy this, paste that, change this to blue, change this to blue. So if it's blue, we'll go ahead and set the drawable to blue. This is going to allow us to condense our code a little bit, and it'll stop us from inside our on our button click listener. We want to repeat this code for every, you'll see, for every iteration of the button and the different, like the different indexes that you click on for the buttons. So it's going to make your code a lot smaller. So do game dot set move, and then we'll pass in color, and then it'll be start location and location. Okay. And that's actually setting the move in the gameboard.java file. So now that we've done that, we need to also go ahead and update our activity to show it with our buttons. So game buttons, start location. So wherever the button started, we need to go ahead and make that a blank space now. So set background drawable to get resources. Okay. And game buttons, start lock dot set tag. We'll make it blank. So wherever the button started at is now a blank space since we're moving out of that, and then we need to fill the space it's moving into with whatever color GamePiece is coming into it. So games button in lock set background drawable, and it's going to be drawable game buttons in lock dot set tag. It's going to be color. So you see this will take a string, which is the color we passed in. This is the drawable, which was set depending on the color it was passed in. So if it was passed in red, made it red. Passed in blue, made it in blue. And then all we need to do now, since we've moved that piece, there's not an initial piece selected anymore. So piece selected equals false. Okay. And let's see how we're doing on time. We're at 17. We'll go ahead and what I'll do is I'll just split this into 2 videos in, and we'll go ahead and make our move result real quick. And after that, we'll stop here and then we'll make one more video. So private void move result. Okay, so all we're going to do in here is check see if somebody won. If not, we're going to continue playing. So int winner equals game dot check for win, which is going to return if you remember a 0 if no one won, a 1 if red won, and a 2 if blue won. So winner equals 0 means nobody's won yet. We need to see if it's red's turn. If red played, then we need to set info display to show that it's blue's turn now. And then we need to put red turn equals false. And we can just copy this. So it's not red's turn currently, it would be blue's turn. So we need to change this right here to red's turn. And let's check this to true. Okay. So, but if it didn't return a 0, it had to return a 0, 1, or 2. So if it returned a 1, we know that red won. That's 2 equal signs instead of 1. So if it is equal to 1, you do info display red wins, and then game over is going to be set to true. We'll just copy this, paste it. So if it returns a 2, we know that blue is 1, so change it to blue, and game over is true. So now we're almost done with this, with the main activity, but since we've already been going now for about 20 minutes, we'll go ahead and cut this video off here, and then I'll make one more, and that should finish up the series, and we will be able to play our game. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.